The August 14th, 2012 meeting of the Monroe County Legislature will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
President Adair. Here. Mrs. Aldersley. Mr. Ansello. Miss Andrews. Mr. Antelli. Mr. Barker. Mr. Baroth. Miss Boyce. Mr. Colby. Mr. Daniele. Mrs. Draw. Mr. Gamble. Mr. Gamina. Mr. Haney. Mr. Hanna. Mr. Howland. Ms. Kaylee. Mr. John Lightfoot. Mr. Willie Lightfoot. Mr. McCann. Mr. Michike. Mr. O'Brien. Mr. Patterson. Dr. Quattro. Mr. Rocco. Mr. Tucciarello. Mrs. Valerio. Mr. Wilcox. Mr. Yolovich.
I would like to first get my microphone to work, right? What my wondering eyes should appear, but a brand new legislator in the back row over there. Legislator Aldersley, welcome tonight. We went to your swearing in today. It was a very nice event. I heard the cookies were good, but I refrained. I wanted to welcome you on behalf of the entire Ledge tonight. At this time, would everyone please stay seated, and we're going to have a moment of silence. Legislator Carrie Andrews will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Legislator Andrews. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. At this time, I would like to continue without objection to take agenda item number 7 out of regular order. Agenda item number 7 is moved by Mr. Daniele, seconded by Mr. O'Brien. Will the clerk please read the resolution and memorial for Mrs. Rita Colby, wife of former legislator James Colby and mother of legislator Robert J. Colby.
Expressing regret of the Monroe County Legislature on the recent passing of Rita Bach Colby. Be it resolved that the Monroe County Legislature hereby expresses its deep sympathy at the recent passing of Rita Colby, mother of Monroe County Legislator Robert J. Colby. Whereas Rita Colby passed away at age 83 on Saturday, July 14, 2012, and whereas Rita received her bachelor's degree during a time when it was rare for women to attend college, she valued education and insisted her children attend college. After she graduated, Rita worked as a buyer for Sibley's department store. And whereas she traveled the world with her husband, going everywhere from a Mississippi River cruise to touring New Zealand, Europe, and Australia. When they were not traveling, she served as a silent advisor to her husband, the Honorable James Colby, when he held public office. And whereas Rita was a beloved wife, mother, and grandmother, as well as a caring and well-respected friend and valued member to the community. And whereas Rita was predeceased by her husband, the Honorable James A. Colby, and her twin sister, Ruth Holman. She is survived by her sister Marie, her children, Jean, Charles, Richard, and Robert, and her grandchildren, Margarita, Chadwick, Camille, Scott, Mark, Sarah, James, and Alexander, and many nieces, nephews, cousins, and friends. And whereas Rita, known to her family as a spirit of fun, will long be remembered for her selflessness, her Sunday dinners and secret recipes, and above all else, her love for her family. And be it further resolved that the clerk of the legislature is hereby requested to forward a copy of this resolution to the bereaved family. This resolution was adopted unanimously, with each legislator rising in his or her place for a moment of silence.
Please remain standing. Without objection, now we will take agenda item number 8 out of regular order. Agenda item number 8 is moved by Mr. Daniele. It is seconded by Mr. O'Brien. Will the clerk please read the resolution and memorial for Private First Class Theodore Matt Glendy of the 173rd Airborne Brigade Combat Team, United States Army.
Expressing regret of the Monroe County Legislature on the recent passing of Private First Class Theodore Glendy. Be it resolved that the Monroe County Legislature hereby expresses its deep sympathy at the recent passing of Theodore Glendy, Private First Class Soldier of the 1st Battalion, 503rd Infantry Regiment, 173rd Airborne Brigade Combat Team. And whereas Theodore was 23 years old and a lifelong resident of Rochester, New York, he attended McQuaid Jesuit High School in Brighton and graduated with the class of 2007. And whereas while serving on a tour in Kuwar in eastern Afghanistan, Theodore's unit came under the attack of small arms fire and a fellow soldier was injured. Theodore immediately rushed to help him, returning fire. And whereas Theodore was providing medical care to his injured comrade when his life was ended, but not before saving the lives of the other soldiers in his unit. And whereas the selfless actions of Theodore Glendy saved 5 other lives that day, he made the ultimate sacrifice, not only to the other members of his unit, but to his country as well. And whereas Theodore will be greatly missed by his wife Alexandra, his family and friends, and by his fellow soldiers. And whereas he will always be remembered for his loyalty, dedication, service, and love for his country, and above all, he will be remembered as a hero, one who gave his life so that others may live. Be it further resolved that the clerk of the legislature is hereby requested to forward a copy of this resolution to the bereaved family. This resolution was adopted unanimously, with each legislator rising in his or her place for a moment of silence.
Be seated. Legislators, you've received a copy of the Journal of Day 8, July 10th, 2012. Without exception, the journal stands approved as submitted. Tonight there's a hearing loop in place to assist those who are hearing impaired. Anyone requiring assistance should inquire at the clerk's office.
If you have a cellular phone, pager, or other electronic device in your possession, we would request that you silence them for the duration of the meeting, and thank you for your cooperation.
And legislators, the referrals submit to the legislature for the next committee cycle are in your folders. And now at this time, it is my great honor and privilege to introduce Mark Quinn from Monroe County Parks Department, who is going to tell us all tonight about the plant of the month. Mark, it's yours.
Thank you. Good evening. The plant of the month is heuchera, which is coral bells. It's a really interesting plant. It's evolved significantly during my career. In the last 3 or 4 decades, it's changed a lot in the industry. It used to be it was valued for its relatively attractive but wispy-type flower, generally a coral-colored red or perhaps white. But now most of the plants are grown specifically for their foliage. They have really interesting, anywhere from a black to a light green, very pretty leaves. They're grown generally for foliage color, and there's about 50 species and hundreds of varieties. They're a really interesting plant. They're relatively easy to grow. Unlike some of the plants that you have to have full sun, these will do particularly well in a partial shade. The darker plants actually like a fuller sun, whereas if you get a light-colored one, they'll take a little more shade than the dark ones. They can be grown, again, for the flowers, which are really nice and wispy, and they show off the stuff behind them. They don't really cover a lot, so that they tend to be grown with other plants. They don't like wet, so you want to have them in a well-drained soil, but if it's really swampy or moist, that'll kind of do them in. So other than a real moist environment, they'll do particularly well. They're pretty easy to grow. And again, anywhere from a full sun to a partial shade. If you want to keep them flowering for a longer period of time, some of the varieties will start flowering probably in about May, maybe into June, depending on variety. You just clip the flowers off, and a lot of times they'll continue to flower for quite some time. And it depends on the different varieties. But again, most of them now are grown for the very interesting foliage, and they tend to be evergreen to semi-evergreen, so they actually keep their leaves through the winter. So they're a very nice garden plant. They get from like 1 to 3 feet tall, so they don't overwhelm stuff. They don't grow particularly fast. You can divide them like every 3 years, and they're very attractive in the garden. A lot of different variety of color. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quinn. This evening, there's several proclamations scheduled. Madam Clerk.
Would Sergeant Stephen Imburgia please come forward? Also, President Jeffrey R. Adair and Legislator Carmen F. Camina. Whereas Sergeant Stephen Imburgia has bravely served our country in the military since 1988, his career began in the Navy and continued on to many additional assignments. He has served as a medic Marine and joined the National Guard after 9/11. He is on the Counter Drug Task Force and also serves in the Honor Guard, where he has participated in honoring hundreds of our fallen soldiers. And whereas Sergeant Imburgia has served in many various military assignments and conflicts including both Desert Storm and Desert Shield. He served in multiple counter-drug missions, and he was also a part of a joint task force specializing in disaster response that worked closely with FEMA at the Niagara Air Force Base. And whereas Sergeant Imburgia has been awarded multiple medals throughout his successful career. He was awarded the Medal for Outstanding Service during the aftermath of Hurricane Irene in Margaretville, New York in 2011. Sergeant Imburgia and his troop provided food, aid, and security to Margaretville residents after Hurricane Irene destroyed their village. And whereas, while serving our country, Sergeant Imburgia was severely injured and has been recovering this summer. He hopes to be back on duty as soon as possible. It is needless to say that Sergeant Imburgia is not only a great role model for our local community, but for our country as well. Now, therefore, we, Jeffrey R. Adair, President, and Carmen F. Camina, Legislator, District 8, on behalf of the entire Monroe County Legislature, do hereby recognize and congratulate Sergeant Stephen Imburgia on his outstanding service and commitment to protecting our country. Congratulations.
Little choked up. Good evening. Thank you for coming, and this is awesome. I just want to thank my family and friends and everybody that has prayed for me and made my recovery special and is getting me through my recovery and my injuries. And I also want to thank fellow veterans disabled veterans, hurt in the line of duty. I'm with a new team now, and I'm with you guys. Wow. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Would representatives from Martha Brown Middle School please come forward? Also President Jeffrey R. Adair and legislators Michael G. Barker and Karen T. Hanna. Whereas Martha Brown Middle School in the town of Parenton is joining a prestigious group in the field of education by receiving the designation as a school to watch in 2012. The Essential Elements Schools to Watch program is a state-administered national program that seeks to identify middle grade schools who adhere to a rigorous set of criteria and are on a pathway to continuous improvement. And whereas Martha Brown Middle School is academically excellent and developmentally responsive, the school establishes norms, structures, and organizational arrangements to support and sustain its trajectory toward excellence. They have a sense of purpose that drives every facet of practice and decision-making. And whereas Martha Brown Middle School offers extensive asset-building programs to promote healthy youth and leadership, a listening post program to help students build relationships with older adult community members, a Brotherhood Sisterhood Week to promote civility, awareness, respect, and embrace throughout the community, a variety of clubs to meet all students' interests, and an extensive parent portal web program that enhances parents' participation in their child's education. And whereas Martha Brown Middle School has continued to benefit the entire community through its strong dedication to all principles of education and by preparing all of its students for successful futures in higher level education. Now, therefore, we, Jeffrey R. Adair, President, Michael G. Barker, Vice President, and Karen T. Hanna, Legislator District 18, on behalf of the entire Monroe County Legislature, do hereby recognize and congratulate Martha Brown Middle School on being designated as a school to watch from the New York State Department of Education in partnership with the New York State Middle School Association, the statewide network of middle school liaisons, and the New York State United Teachers. Congratulations.
I just want to say on behalf of all of us at Martha Brown, we don't get there alone. We get a ton of support from our students, our staff, our parents, and our community. And it's especially, satisfying for us to have a colleague, Mr. Barker, one of our middle school colleagues in Fairport. So we thank all of you. And if you're not from Fairport, just continue to support the schools within your district because they need your support even more now than ever in these tough times. But on behalf of all of us at Martha Brown, we thank everyone for their support. Thank you.
Folks, we all set? Nothing else? No. Tonight there are no formal committee reports scheduled. We will now hold the public forum. We have several people registered to address the legislature. Mrs. Rossi.
If you require assistance, a deputy will assist you in approaching the lectern. Please come forward and be prepared to address the legislature when your name is called. Each speaker will have 2 minutes and only 2 minutes, and we ask that you conclude your remarks when the timer sounds, and we thank you for your cooperation. Our first speaker will be Peter Paragon. Our next speaker will be Edward Gartz.
Good afternoon. Great to be here. My name is Edward Gartz. For the last 2 years, I've been taking up a cause for our county parks golf courses. The contract that was written for the county golf courses was this thick. Here it is, right here. It should have been, or the unwritten contract turned out to be, give the county its cut and do whatever you please. What I've found out is, as I've researched what's happening with the county golf courses, is the contract that you set up allows the person to collect as much money as they possibly can, give the county a cut, and not put any back in the golf course. So I made out my own top 10 list. This is directly out of the contract that's here. High quality golf experience that you requested? No, it's not there. Affordable prices? No. $28 will get you a golf cart. $28 if you and your friend want to go out and play golf. A golf pro at each course as required by the contract? No, never been there. Greenskeeper at each course? No. Tees maintained, greens maintained, fairways maintained? No, there's weeds all over. Some of them are turned into solid clover. Restaurants open at each course? No, some of them are closed completely. Marketing promotion done? No. Capital improvements done? No, can't find any. So now that our great county assets are turning into a state of disrepair, and there will be somebody that has to fix them up, I'm here to ask you if you would make sure that it isn't the county taxpayer that will wind up fixing them up. 16 years of going downhill. And so I have been making some headway. I've been in discussion. I'm not doing real well. I need your help. Last statement. Please, when the budget comes for the county golf courses, don't rubber stamp it. Please make sure that the people are actually doing what they say.
Our next speaker is Sister Grace Miller. Our next speaker is Ken Matheson.
I'm back. My name is Ken Matheson. I'm representing Scope and the gun owners of Monroe County. I'm here again to urge you to make a change to county parks law to allow licensed concealed carry of firearms in the parks. It should be a no-brainer to get this done, and I'll tell you why. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So says the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. This is no longer an arguable point. The Supreme Court, in the Heller decision, has decreed that the Second Amendment is indeed an individual right. You'll notice, I'm sure, that I didn't mention the part about the well-regulated militia. The Supreme Court in the same decision said it doesn't matter. Okay? So we do have a constitutional right to keep and bear arms. Next, this law is also needs to be changed because it's illegal and unenforceable under New York state law and recent court decisions. New York Penal Law 400, which is the regulating authority when it comes to handgun licensing, states under the part about the validity of a license, any license issued pursuant to this section shall be valid, notwithstanding the provisions of any local law or ordinance. Means this law is not enforceable, okay? The only exception to those kind of laws is for New York City, which is taken care of in Penal Law 400 also. Okay. Additionally, recently in the past 2 years, there was a court decision in the case of Schwick v. Mulvey has determined and set a statewide precedent that New York State has the sole regulating authority for handguns. That means that the county, the city, no other political entity can regulate handguns except the state of New York. So basically this law is illegal. We need to get it changed. It also, because of its illegality and its unenforceability, it also presents a significant liability to the county of Monroe. Somebody gets arrested, they lose their guns, they can sue you. All right? Let's get it changed. Democrats, you can right a wrong from 30 years ago. Republicans, you can do your job, protect the Constitution. Let's get this thing changed. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sister Grace Miller.
The House of Mercy and Citizens for a Dignified Burial want to thank this body for your willingness to work with us towards a satisfactory solution in assisting our poor with burials. Thus far, we have had 2 meetings. On August 2nd, Jeff Adair, Ted O'Brien, Anthony Daniele, and Cindy Keller met with us at the House of Mercy. Some of the results of that meeting were Jeff Adair and his team will investigate the opportunity to have an RFP process established for funeral homes by establishing financial benchmarks and seeking participation with local funeral homes. This will ensure that every person has a simple yet dignified burial. The funeral homes would benefit with increased traffic and the knowledge that they are helping with a worthy cause. Ted O'Brien will get further clarity from Jeff and his team as to the gaps in the previously submitted but not yet accepted proposal on burials. With help from others, including the House of Mercy, it will be resubmitted to the Republicans for discussion, hopefully. Republican and/or Democratic representatives will attend the meeting with GRCC, which we already held, to keep the dialogue moving forward. It has been suggested that GRCC could do more to market the burial fund. We would like to see the county act in this discussion. As many of us are Catholics, we all agree that we had never been asked to give to such a fund. And then, is there anything the county can do working with the local cemeteries to obtain more donated spots? The House of Mercy will get other parties to the table to continue to move this issue forward, including representation from funeral directors. We had a meeting August 2nd with GRCC, who holds the burial fund. Present were Ted O'Brien, Debbie Draw, Matt Miller from Rochester, Genesee Funeral Directors Association. And there is a willingness on the part of all parties to move forward on this issue. Therefore, there will be a very important meeting in September, date to be announced. We are hoping to have county representation at this meeting, including Kelly Reed. Now, to have healthy, proactive discussions, we all have to come to the table. Symbolically, it's the table of the Lord, where we will all share in the Eucharistic celebration, a communal celebration of thanksgiving and love. All this is an effort to help the poorest of the poor in our community.
Our next speaker is Anna Sears. Anna Sears.
Good evening, and thank you all for this opportunity for us to share our concerns with the Monroe County Legislature. I am Anna Sears, resident of Brighton and co-founder of Our Cause, which stands for Rochesterians Concerned About Unsafe Shale Gas Extraction. Our Cause was formed over 2 years ago to raise awareness in the greater Rochester area about the dangers of high-volume horizontal hydrofracking. We are a local grassroots group over 1,000 strong, and we are here this evening to express our deep concerns about how fracking and all its ancillary activities, such as fracking waste disposal, road damage, and water withdrawal, can impact Monroe County. From what has been revealed in the local papers, there has been no action to date to protect properties under the county's jurisdiction. Fracking is a highly complex activity which requires much study. We ask that you please read this newspaper, The Flowback, to get a sense of how complex and dangerous this activity is. And I've handed out 30 copies. Our intent is to open a dialogue with the county legislature and the administration to discuss how the county will be proactive and move forward to protect our health and quality of life from this heavy industrial activity and to safeguard our clean air, water, and land for generations to come. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Nedra Harvey.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm Nedra Harvey, city resident and co-founder of Our Cause, Rochesterians Concerned About Unsafe Shale Gas Extraction. A decision to engage in any aspect of gas drilling cannot be made without lengthy, in-depth study. If the legislature intends to study or is in the process of studying this issue, the public has a right and indeed a responsibility to be a part of this decision-making process. Therefore, we respectfully call on the legislature and administration to do the following general procedures. 1, be transparent. Make public all details of the legislative decision-making process in regard to proposed drilling-related activity on county properties. And if you consult, how will consultants be selected and reimbursed? 2, be inclusive, please. With public input, craft a plan to gather public comments, report findings and decisions in an ongoing manner. 3, be ethical. The protection of our environment and our citizens must be paramount. What efforts will be made to temper the influence of gas industry money and party politics? As concerned citizens, we believe that no aspect of gas drilling should be exempt from public disclosure. We welcome the opportunity for involvement in the decision-making process and are confident that our county legislature and administration will act to ensure our health, welfare, and safety. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Peter Chiavari.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Peter Chiavari, a lifetime resident of Monroe County, living in Arundequite. I am a chemist, retired from E.I. DuPont & Company, and a former safety and environmental engineer with that company. Despite regulations and best practices, studies and experience show we cannot do fracking without contaminating our drinking water with benzene, toluene, radioactive materials, and other carcinogens. One example is the Wind River area in Wyoming, where the contamination was such that the EPA and the responsible driller had to pay to have bottled water delivered to the residents. This issue is particularly relevant to us in Arundequite, since our town is bordered on 3 sides by water. DEC Commissioner Joseph Martens has said we would be safe from these poisons since they would be reported to and regulated by the DEC. However, under his rules, drillers would be allowed to withhold much of the reporting from the public, thereby making our beautiful lakes vulnerable to the drillers. Fracking proponents want to leave the issue regarding waste up to states and to science. If the states are to provide the solution, then how, according to research by the New York Times, did gas seep into drinking water in Colorado, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Texas, and West Virginia? The late world-renowned scientist C.P. Snow, in an address to the American Association for the Advancement of Science, said, quote, "Truth is what makes science work, and no honest mistake or deception will remain undetected for long. If we here will make a decision on fracking, we must confront the deception and let the scientific truth lead us where it may." Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Dwayne Wilder.
Hello, my name is Dwayne Wilder. I'm a resident of Brighton and a member of this community since 1970. I've given the clerk some handouts for you and would like to discuss them in brief regarding radiation in fracking fluids. By fracking fluids, we mean the waters and other materials that flow back out of the well after the hydraulic fraction has been completed. Wastewater from Marcellus shale drilling may contain unhealthy concentrations of radioactivity, and the federal officials, researchers, the industry, and former head of Pennsylvania's Department of Environmental Protection has called for testing of drinking water resource sources and full disclosure of the results. This is part of a report published by the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette this July 2012, written by Don Hopi and Daniel Malloy. The New York Times reported in a story Saturday, that would have been 6/30, June 30, that 116 of 179 Marcellus wells in Pennsylvania had high levels of radiation in wastewater samples, and that wastewater discharges into rivers and streams were untested for radiation, even though government agencies and the industry knew of the risks. The radiation is picked up by water used to hydraulically fracture the deep 380 million old shale layer and release the natural gas it holds. The shale is a carrier of the uranium salts and the radium salts that cause this. Just a brief note, you'll find a map that shows that in Tioga County, the total radiation in radium in picocuries per liter was 18,045. Compare that to the federal drinking water level of 5. This is dangerous. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Linda Helm. Linda Helm.
Good evening, everyone. Linda, also from the House of Mercy. My topic tonight is the pedestrian crosswalks at our intersections downtown. It's very dangerous to cross the streets in downtown. For me, I use the bus a lot. I support RTS. And the cross signs aren't long enough to cross across the street. for handicapped pedestrians or myself, so it would be nice if there were longer flashing for us to cross longer length of time. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Our next speaker is Max Kessler.
Good evening. A couple weeks ago in Aurora, Colorado, we got yet another example of the dangers of victim disarmament zones. Even a group of professional killers, i.e. military personnel, were helpless because the movie theater was a victim disarmament zone, just like our county parks. Had one, or preferably more, people been armed, they could have stopped the massacre and saved other people. I know the Republicans in here are trying to push off a vote on reintegrating county parks into America until after Maggie Brooks's campaign for U.S. Representative is over, because one of you told me so. Republicans claim to be pro-gun, but the object of being pro-gun is not merely to tap the brakes on anti-gun legislation, but to hang a 180. If Brooks really were pro-gun, she would proudly sign a bill to repeal the ban on firearms in parks and then campaign on it. We, the people, demand that our county parks be brought back within the realm of America with the protections of the Bill of Rights. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Dave Jenkins.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Legislature. My name is Dave Jenkins. I'm a lifelong resident of Monroe County and also an educator of firearms safety. I own a company called Rochester Personal Defense where I train civilians in the safe ownership and target shooting and or use of firearms. And I come across a lot of them. We've been had a pretty good business lately. It's working because a lot of people are concerned about their safety. This is one of the things that raises their concerns. Most people that carry concealed, they're not the problem. I'm not going to say all because there are the exceptions, but high majority of them, they're not the problem. They're not the persons you need to worry about. I get a lot of concerns about people that walk their pets, they walk their families, they spend a lot of time in the county parks, and they're concerned that they're not able to protect themselves not only from aggressive actions by an attacker, but some of the other animals that might be out there. You never know. So they want to be able to use that to protect themselves. One of the things that I come across a lot is this can be a very highly emotionally charged subject. I don't like arguing emotions because you got to have the facts behind it. I'm going to give you a couple of them. 1/10 of 1% of people that have pistol permits usually are the problem. That's even less. Okay, that's one thing that I heard a long time ago, but now I've found that it's become a lot less. What they're really looking at is, granted, one wrong thing kind of ruins a lot of good, but if you look at the other end of the scale, you've got a lot of people that carry firearms on a regular basis. They're very professional about it. They're very respectful about it. They follow the law. What they want to do is be able to follow the law while also being able to protect their families in areas that might be more dangerous than others. Okay, so from an educator's point of view, I meet a lot of great people that are just concerned about being able to protect their families. And again, I'm going to urge that this come up at some point in the near future where it can be discussed and repealed. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Samuel Thayer.
I'm here for the Second Amendment, and I'm a member of SCOPE. I've been here 4 times. I'm asking the question of this legislative body when you're going to make a decision that we're going to be able to carry weapons, small arms, into the parks as a requirement for the benefit of avoidance of the conditions which we've had recently happen in the United States here, the right to protect ourselves and hopefully to protect you and your families. You're taking away these rights. It's reduced itself down to the point where I'm really fearful of going down and getting a small arms weapon myself, and other than just keeping it locked up in the house in case I have a break in there or anything, to removing myself down to the fact that I've gone down and bought myself a can of wasp and hornet killer to protect myself because I have a power chair and I've been accosted 2 or 3 times. I'm a big man, but I'm running into situations where in order to defend myself, other than in parks, I have to reduce myself down to this, where I have to use a weapon here to protect, to do this. Now, will you please make up a decision what you're going to do as to passing this bill so that we can do something to get weapons so we can go through the parks. I had a farm down on Ladder Road, and it was a Lake Ontario State Parkway. And on one side of the farm, I had to go to the other side. I'm wondering whether the laws had to do anything with me carrying my shotgun and my rifle to go hunt during my pheasant season and stuff where I was against the law. I'm never giving this a second thought. Now, if it comes down to the point where we have to make decisions, please make some decisions so that we don't have these situations that we've been running into where we have these crazy people running around and you're not even allowed to carry a weapon. And these poor officers, they've got all they can do to try and be in different places all at once to defend us. And at a point in time, we're going to have a situation, possibly, I hope not, where we're going to have to have possibly martial law, and we've all got to defend ourselves one way or the other. Let's get off the bandwagon here, gentlemen, and make a decision on this so we can get this thing passed and get over this political baloney. Thank you for your time, people.
Our last speaker is Larry O'Haron.
Thank you for letting me speak tonight. My name's Larry O'Haron. I'm a resident of the city of Rochester, and I come to speak and ask for repeal of the ban on carry concealed weapons in county parks. After obtaining my carry concealed permit, the first thing I did was go out and get training in a basic level course. I followed that up with 2 more advanced courses. I understand the seriousness of exercising my Second Amendment rights, and I understand the gravity of those possible consequences were I ever have to do so. I'm pretty sure I've hiked every park in Monroe County, and I've enjoyed every time I've been in the parks. However, this issue often turns on what I believe is the wrong question. I don't believe the question is, what are the odds of something happening to you? I believe the issue is, what are the stakes if something happens to you? And in that regard, I would much prefer to be able to go home at the end of the night back to my loved ones rather than be a victim of a violent assault. Thank you for your time, and I urge you to repeal that law.
This concludes the public forum.
We will now continue with the consideration of motions, resolutions, and notices. The clerk will read the next item on the agenda.
Item number 1, referral 12-221, providing that resolution, intro number 266 of 2012, entitled Approving.
Moved by Legislator Valerio, second by Legislator Yolovich. This is to lift from the table. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries.
Item number 2, referral 12-221, providing that resolution, intro.
Moved by Legislator Valerio, second by Legislator Yolovich. This is to adopt the budget. Is there any discussion at this time? Legislator Haney.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have just one question for the Director of Finance. I realize that the contribution MCC is now funded out of the county services levy instead of the general tax levy. But in our annual calculation of the 2% limit that the state has imposed, as I understand it, that calculation includes both the county services levy and the general tax levy. My question is it your considered opinion that as we approach the year 2013, that our 2% calculation has enough room in it to provide for what may well be a $500,000 increase in the county services levy as a result of the $500,000 increase in the contribution to MCC?
Through the President, yes, we will still meet the cap requirement of 2% based on the $500,000 increase here.
Okay, thank you. Mr. President, the members of this honorable body will recall that in the last couple of years I have voted against the MCC budget and have urged my colleagues to vote against the MCC budget. I will be voting for the MCC budget this evening and accordingly urge my colleagues to do the same. And that is because of the same two issues that I've raised in the prior years. The members of this honorable body will recall that I was very concerned about the fact that the college in prior years included in its expense budget and therefore in its funding from the state, the county, and the students an amount of money to pay for retiree health insurance costs, and that amount had reached $5 million. To my knowledge, the college is the only, at least is the only governmental entity that I was aware of. I'm sure there are some someplace, but the only governmental entity that I was aware of that was funding this, one might almost call, mythical obligation. Certainly the county or the city or Erie County Community College and Onondaga Community College have not been including it in their operating budget. The college has changed course this year, does not have this amount of money, does not have the appropriation, which would have been $5 million, in its operating budget, and therefore is not funding it. And I applaud the college for making that decision. Secondly, the members of this honorable body will recall that in the past I have been concerned about the accumulation of unrestricted cash at the college, not so much the accumulation of it, but the way the money was invested. As of the end of the last fiscal year, the college had $55 million of unrestricted cash, and all of it is in either just regular checking accounts or in money market accounts. And as you all know, money market accounts pay virtually no interest in these days. There are ways the college could generate real investment income from this money. And at $55 million, even a 1% return would generate $550,000 a year, which not coincidentally is the amount by which we're increasing our contribution. At the Ways and Means Committee meeting, the representatives of the college assured the committee that The college is preparing a set of investment policies. We'll be taking those investment policies to its Board of Trustees for adoption, and we'll be changing the approach it has taken in the past to the investment of this money. I encourage the college to continue on that course, and in fact, when we sit here again next year, I will expect that they have indeed corrected the situation and have a reasonable investment program for this not insignificant amount of cash. But because they have corrected problem one and are working on problem two, I will be voting for the budget and encourage my colleagues to do the same.
Thank you, Legislator Haney. Is there any other discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
Item number 3, referral 12-224, amending resolution.
Moved by Legislator Hanna, second by Legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
Item number 4, referral 12-225, accepting grant from New York State.
Moved by Legislator Hanna, second by Legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
Item number 5, referral 12-227.
Moved by Legislator Yolovich, second by Legislator Gamina. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
Item number 6, referral 12-228, authorizing contract.
Moved by Legislator Hanna, second by Legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next, we have items this evening under unfinished business. Mrs. Rozzi, will you please read the next item?
Item number 9, referral 12-212.
Moved by Legislators Howland and Gamina, second by Legislator Gamina and Yolovich. This is a motion to lift from the table. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
Item number 10, referral 12-212, providing.
Moved by Legislators Howland and Gamina, second by Legislator Yolovich. This is the motion to adopt. Is there any discussion at this time? Yes, Mr. Howland.
Move the following amendment, which is item number 10.3 in your packet. As you can see, this amendment reflects the changes in the original resolution, which is item 10.2.
Thank you. I trust everyone's had time to take a look at that. It was in your packet. Okay, I need a second. Moved by Legislator Howland, second by Legislator Tucciarello. Now, is there any discussion on the amendment? Legislator O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Haney. Mr. President. It's a Freudian slip there of some kind. You may recall that I supported Mr. Haney for presidency, but I like to...
May I remind you, Legislator O'Brien, you've now taken our clerk off the hook.
Excuse me, Mr. President.
It's all right.
You may recall at the last session of the legislature when this came before us, I think what resulted from a speaker actually at public input and then some quick Google searches, which led ultimately to the tabling of this motion and ultimately the amendment that's on the table now, which changes the prevailing award of this contract. And through you, Mr. President, my question would be whether or not we're taking any proactive actions to kind of tighten our screening processes and so on, so that the kind of incident that came before us, maybe we'll have better success at not having that happen in the future. Through you, Mr. President.
Through you, Mr. President, if I could just first acknowledge that Jim McIntosh, the city engineer, is here tonight. To respond to Legislator O'Brien's question, The steps that we've taken internally are to require that the consultant, whether it's the architect or engineer on the project, as well as the county project manager, will conduct an internet search to review, determine, identify if the bidder's been involved in any criminal investigation, a conviction, indictment, or grant of any immunity associated in the past related to any business-related conduct that could constitute a crime, both local, state, and federal. Our engineering agreement has also been modified to require that of the engineer, and our documents have also been broadened to ensure that the bidder discloses any administrative proceeding, civil action, or claim.
Great. Thank you, and I appreciate that. It sounds like an appropriate response, and I appreciate your efforts, Mr. Garland. And through you, Mr. President, just as a follow-up, and I don't know if this is to Mr. Garland or someone else, but just for our education, had the contract been awarded and then this had come to, after the fact, this circumstance had come to light, what would be our remedy, or would we be able to do something about it at that point? Through you, Mr. President?
Through you, Mr. President, we would certainly have been able to have revoked the contract based on the terms that are written in the bid document.
Okay. Thank you. I have nothing further.
Thank you. Are there any other questions on the amendment? If not, I'll move to a vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The item carries back to the main motion. I think I've got a motion and a second on that. Is there any discussion on the main motion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
Item number 11, referral 12-212BR.
Moved by legislators Howland and Gamina, second by legislator Yolovich. This is a motion to lift from the table. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
Item number 12, referral 12-212BR.
Moved by legislator Howland, second by legislator, moved by legislators Howland and Gamina, seconded by legislator Yolovich. This is the motion to adopt. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The item carries. Is there any additional unfinished business to come before us tonight? Seeing none, Mr. Daniele.
Mr. President, we stand adjourned until 6 p.m. Tuesday, September 11th, 2012.
Thank you.